Hello everyone, Purple Georgy here. Okay, most of you probably have seen my last video about Koji and how not to write a character who is smart, manipulator, and is supposedly a genius. As a result, today we're gonna be talking about the characters who are actually those things, who are actually smart and are manipulators. I'm of course talking about beloved Makima from Chainsawman and recently introduced Reze, since both of them are manipulators, just one of them is slightly a much better manipulator than the other. Oh, and I want to say huge thanks to everyone for the engagement under that video, because it already got like 200,000 views, and not gonna lie, I didn't really see that coming. I read a lot of comments and currently am reading the light novels of Classroom of the Elite, and oh boy, manipulation in there goes crazy, let me tell you. But while I read those for a video, I thought it would only be fair to make a video and talk about actually well-written manipulators in the recent media, since people are more or less interested in that topic. And I do want to start with the sad aspect of Chainsawman, because it is a little sad and ironic at the same time that both of the main characters' love interests at the beginning of the story were manipulating him for different reasons. Meanwhile, Denji was trying to pick which one he should follow. We of course know who Denji should have actually picked. And it's interesting how both Makima and Reze at their core have essentially the exact same way of manipulating Denji. Essentially just by being really nice women. Bruh, if you think about it, it does not take much, does it? And essentially that manipulation, I think, is actually working well because, well, it applies really well to real life. In real life, there's also a lot of people who will act nice towards you, but just because they want something from you. Oh, and just so we're clear, I'm not trying to start anything, literally both boys and girls do that, and in any kind of combination. Girls will lie to other girls as well to get something from them. And it is really funny because Chainsawman actually uses that. Makima lied to both men and women to get into a relationship with them, and then so she can use them to her advantage. But okay, first, before understanding Makima's manipulation, we need to understand why is she even manipulating, and what is her end goal. To put it simply, Makima's established goal, and that's the goal that she tells everyone in the series and everyone's aware of, is that she wants to destroy all devils, like all of those monstrous creatures that are constantly roaming the earth. She wants to kill them all. The problem is that devils in Chainsawman world are sort of like conceptual beings. They're not born like regular monsters. They're literally manifested into reality based on certain fears that humans have. To put it simply, the Chainsaw Devil, aka Pochita, which serves as main character's heart at the moment, is so strong because, well, humans are afraid of Chainsaw. That basic human fear is essentially what made Pochita so strong. But just like in the NA Shonen, the demons not only are monsters, but also have some unique superpower. In case of Pochita, it's very convenient for Makima's plan. Chainsawman has a unique ability of literally erasing demons from existence. Everything he eats is gone forever. So he could literally erase horrible concepts from reality just by destroying demons who in itself also pose a threat. If you don't understand it, it's pretty simple. Essentially, like, look, there's a war devil in the story. It represents the concept of war. If Denji were ever to eat it, the concept of war would be just gone from reality. Which means, bruh, couldn't Chainsawman eat the bad devil? A lot of problems in the world could have been avoided if he'd done that back in the day. However, another problem that Makima is facing is that not only she needs Pochita to cooperate with her, Pochita is now kinda infused with Denji. And since Pochita became Denji's heart willingly, most likely he's not gonna cooperate with Makima if she just rips it out of Denji's chest. As such, Makima quickly resorted to manipulating Denji firsthand, because most likely if she just killed him and tried to find a new host for Pochita, that would have taken a while because I doubt he would want to fuse with anyone else. The entire plot of her manipulating the main character just to gain access to the devil that is in his chest is pretty clever, not gonna lie. Especially if you think about it, Denji is written as a perfect victim in that case, so to speak, because he's basically just some guy from a small town who didn't really have any friends among humans, but in addition to that, never really had an access to the opposite gender. And then one day, Bra literally gets the dream of all anime viewers, just the perfect girl who saves him, and then acts really nice to him, buys him food, and is acting kindly all the time. Yes, this manipulation is incredibly simple. It's not like Aizen level of manipulation with 20 steps ahead predictions and conclusions of what happened in a month. Makima essentially just saw a gullible guy who has what she wants and decided to play pretend to get, well, access to Pochita again. But again, I'm not gonna criticize it, because in this case, simplicity is the key. You don't overstep the manipulation. I feel like if you would have put extra steps in that scenario, it probably would have been too complicated, convoluted, and unnecessarily long. But the funniest part, because Makima's manipulation is so simple, because her actions are so realistic, viewers could not only associate with Denji even more, but also associate themselves with Makima even more, as funny as it is. Like, viewers unironically got manipulated by a fictional character who's manipulating the main character. How ironic. And this is really funny to me, because I feel like online, it's no secret that Makima is a psychopath, and she doesn't even love Denji. And in fact, spoiler if you didn't know, she's such a self-centered, egotistical person that she literally doesn't even remember faces of people around her. Like, people she constantly connects with. She didn't even remember Denji's face and only recognize him by a smell, as it revealed in the later chapters of manga. Yet it doesn't stop anybody online over thirsting over this character, when other explicitly showed many times in the story that she would literally step over you and not even notice you in the slightest. Like, bruh, come on, anime viewers, you wouldn't even have a Pochita in your chest. She wouldn't even look at you in the real circumstances. On the other hand, I guess I should be quiet, because my favorite waifu is Echidna, and she's like, not very far away from Makima emotionally. I feel like in general, Makima feels like such a good manipulator in the story is because her manipulation is not entirely a lie. It's actually a key in making a good manipulation. There has to be some bit of truth in it, because you can't lie 100%, because eventually, when you're gonna come up with more and more information to maintain your lie, the cracks are gonna start showing. And that's exactly how Makima is functioning. She claimed at the beginning of the story that she wants to get rid of the world of all devils. Like, that's her goal, essentially, to rid humanity of the monstrous creatures. And technically, that is true. It's just that Makima never really mentioned what methods she wanted to do to achieve her goals. And since she's clearly avoiding the piece where she's a psychopath and is ready to kill anyone to achieve her goals, no matter the cost, no matter how many people she's gonna get scarred for life, she seems like a really nonchalant and kind person to everyone who doesn't know that side of her. And when your worldview is so nice to other people, when you yourself as a pretty cute woman, when you're so kind towards others, at least that's what you seem like, it's gonna be so much easier for other people to get manipulated by you, because, well, your image is so good to them. That's actually how most manipulators portray at their core. That's more or less a cliche, because for the most part, it's always a nonchalant, cool, calm people who are, turns out, are actually not so nice inside. Again, but the reason why it works so well with Makima is that this image is maintained systematically throughout the anime. She's constantly smiling, she's constantly being nice towards other people, all of her co-workers speaking nicely of her. What I also like about it is that all the scenes where it hinted to the viewers that Makima is actually a crazy psychopath are done in a way where none of the other characters are present, besides maybe Denji in some certain scenes. Well, him and my goat Mads Mikkelsen,
you're full of shit.
Like, that way it's clearly established that two other characters in Chainsawman universe, Makima is a saint. And well, yeah, Denji could have guessed, but in his defense, he probably wasn't syncing with his upper head, so to speak, in the moments like that. And the reason why it doesn't work with characters like Ayano Koji, for example, is that because his image of a nice, calm, regular guy simply cannot be made. He's not maintaining it. He treats other characters like shit, and then they're either forgetting it or not caring about it. Bruh, and I don't even want to talk about a scene where Ayano Koji literally threatens a girl with a sexual assault and they don't mention it. Like, neither her or Ayano Koji mention it, and they're just friendly. And I'm like, what? Although I should point out that even though Makima is a psychopath, I wouldn't say her personality is so one-dimensional. In some ways, her motivation is noble. Getting world free of horrible concepts such as war, which she particularly hates, is not necessarily bad. But it's specifically this part of her personality that makes her a villain. Just so you understand, she sincerely believes that her actions are ultimately helping humanity. But since she's not a human, ultimately she sees everyone around as tools she can use to achieve her goal. But that doesn't mean Makima is like soulless. We can even see it a movie date with Denji. Makima is not a soulless person. She can cry, she can also show her real emotions. She did cry when she saw a tragic movie scene. And despite all the manipulation, all the egotism, all the self-centered stuff, she still wants to help people. By the way, if you want to hear more about why Makima particularly cried in this scene, what movie were they watching with Denji, I made a video about it back in the day which more or less explains this whole situation. That's in case you want to hear more about her personality, because in this video we're mostly talking about manipulation and everything surrounding that, but there is still a lot to talk about. Towards the end of the story, it's actually revealed that Makima this whole time had a crush on Chainsaw Devil. Well, kinda crush. Basically, her personal goal, so to speak, is to build a perfect family after she builds a perfect world. In here, however, I have to make a remark so we understood why her manipulations are so messed up. Well, essentially because her worldview is still messed up. Like, yes, she wants to build a perfect relationship with Wichita, but the view of perfect relationship in her head is still mostly focused on controlling somebody. As a result, any close relationship we see with Makima in the series are all focused on her dominating someone. And, well, that pretty much explains why Pochita was avoiding her so much. But this is still very interesting because in that view, her manipulating Denji is basically her projecting her own feelings. The entire manipulation throughout the show feels so natural is because even to Makima itself, this is as close as it can be to the actual relationship with Chainsaw Devil. And then here I can only applaud the author, because writing such a good gaslighter who gaslighted the main character, every side character, viewers of the anime, and even herself, that's some crazy level of talent. But the irony doesn't end there, because essentially many of you probably have thought at this point, wait a minute, Makima is so focused on controlling everyone, and since she is, spoiler, a control devil who can literally control people all around her, manipulate them literally, and nearly mind control other hybrids. So like, why didn't she do that to either Pochita or Denji? Well, in this case, the problem is neither Denji or Pochita. The problem is Makima's own psychotic part of her personality. I already did mention that Pochita is pretty much the only successful way of her achieving her dream goal, ridding World of Devils. Pochita's fascinating ability of erasing demons from existence to Makima is like a dream come true. It's so fascinating, she treats it like an almost godlike gift. To do a comparison, imagine you wanting something really badly, more than anything in the world in fact. Imagine you want something so desperately you would ready to do anything in order to achieve it, and then all of a sudden, you just meet a person who can just grant you that thing right away. That's exactly how Makima views Pochita, and unfortunately for her, that's the complete opposite of how her powers work. Since Makima, the control devil, is so psychotic, so self-centered, views everyone below her, her powers reflect that. In order for her manipulation and control abilities to work, she needs to view the controlled subject as someone below her. Whether it's emotionally on a power level or in any other way, Makima just has to view herself better than this person or the devil. And since she herself came up with an image of Pochita that directly contradicts her beliefs, she can't in any way control him. Well, at least not directly using her powers. As such, again, manipulation is her only method left. And that's why I really like Makima's manipulation. Everything seems connected in her personality, in her powers, and in her actions. Now, the thing is, after I explained more or less how Makima is manipulating, I want to move on to Reze, because her manipulation is pretty close, but is a little more interesting if you think about it. Because we've already established that Makima's worldview is essentially twisted. It focuses on her entirely, like she is the main center of the universe in her head. As such, even though her actions and feelings may be genuine, her worldview is still mostly messed up, since she's the center of the universe in her head. And from anyone else's point of view, it's kinda messed up. Human concepts like human concept of love or friendship to her are worthless. She thinks she's the only one who can use chainsawman properly, and only her image of ideal world is correct. Reze, on the other hand, when she's introduced at first, acts pretty much like a complete opposite. When we first see Reze interacting with Denji, she acts shy, she blushes easily, she's scared of small things, and she creates this overall please protect me vibe. Once again, to Denji, this seems more like a perfect matchup, because not only he's the kind of guy who hasn't seen many girls who act affectionate towards him, like genuinely affectionate, but Reze surprisingly has a lot of sides of her personality that legitimately matches Denji's. They have the same humor, they're also awkward a lot of times, they act enthusiastic a lot, and they have a lot of simple dreams which they both share. Of course, later it's revealed that all of those coincidentally convenient similarities in their personality is not a coincidence in the slightest. Reze is actually just faking all of that to get on the Denji's good side. But unlike Makima, who was ready to play a longer game, Reze needed results quickly. As such, her methods are much more straightforward. Like, Bra literally what? At the first date, literally told Denji, I love you, let's run away. And honestly, she got lucky. Denji is so socially awkward. He didn't just go like, huh? The hell are you talking about, bro? Essentially, from the start, she's just playing a role of a cute girl, and I can't really explain her actions in any other way besides, yeah, just saying that she's a really cute girl, but only her writing and the reveal is much more fast-paced. If Makima, for the most part, is acting chill, and there's only a few scenes where it's hinted to the viewer that she's a legit psychopath, Reze just is acting cute, until the scene where it's pretty much straight revealed that she's a psychopath. Like, even in case of Makima, there's still doubts. In case of Reze, again, it's demonstrated pretty quickly that she's not who she seems. Especially when in case of Makima, I can actually believe she switches from a good girl mode to a feral mode, since she's a government employee who hunts demons. Like, her actions still would look believable. Reze is literally just a cute schoolgirl who works as barista, so when she's acting like a killing machine all of a sudden, that gives you pretty good explanation of what kind of person she's actually is, and that she's been faking her personality the whole time. Which is actually another reason why I don't buy this whole thing in the end, that she's actually says that, oh no, I actually love you, Denji, even though literally 90% of our time together I was trying to kill you. Like, I understand why Denji would want that, but that whole thing where Reze is just forgiven by him is kind of a stretch in my opinion. Narratively, I feel like it doesn't make sense, simply because they haven't spent much time together, and again, Reze for the most of it was either lying to Denji or was trying to kill Denji. And yes, I'm aware of Reze's backstory. I know that she was raised by Soviets and basically had no childhood. As such, for the most part, she was doubting her emotions. But because the whole arc happens really quickly, she switches her emotions like that. She hates Denji, then she slowly falls in love with him, then she's basically lying to herself, staying on the mission, and then she's like, whatever, I'm in love with Denji, I'm ready to sacrifice everything. Like, overall, that's not the true actions of Manipulator, so we're not gonna respect it in this video. Essentially, at the end of Chainsawman movie, after all of the cool action, Reze does explain to Denji that she was actually lying to him, and that her entire sweet persona was made solely so Denji could trust her, she can get into his trust, and then she can get her hands on Pochita. And that's why, for me personally, Makima works way better than Reze, because Makima was lying to Denji the entire time. Even on her deathbed, she was still maintaining her nice persona. Which more or less explains that after Denji got rid of her, well, not entirely, but whatever, after he got rid of her main form, which we all know and love, you can still see a bit of doubts in him. And we can still see that despite everything that happened at the end of the part 1, Denji is still attached to this ideal picture of Makima that she created. Same thing happens with Reze. Denji's still attached to her, even though she straight away says that she was faking it, that she only needed his heart. And that's why I don't think it kinda makes sense, because again, Makima was lying, Reze was not. She admitted in the end. And Denji was still like, okay, let's run away. I'll run away with you, I'm still in love with you. Like, bruh, come on. Start thinking with your head, bruh. Although I should point out that even though I think it's illogical and imperfection in the writing, but I can't say that Denji wasn't acting in character, because, like, I completely see why this dumb goofball still wants to run away with a girl he loves, even though when this girl tells him that she was faking it. That's honestly part of Denji's personality, which I really like, and actually if you want me to talk about him as well, and why he's so real, like, and also why he's so likable as a character, I can make a video about that. Tell me in the comments if you would like that. So, what can I say about Reze and Makima in conclusion? Both of them are pretty good examples of what Manipulator actually is supposed to look like, and I'm not saying that both of them are written perfectly, but because most of their characters and manipulation are actually done well, you don't really see the flaws. Now, to be fair, the prime aspects of manipulation in fiction is typically supposed to be done really well. There's always supposed to be a lot of thought into it when you're trying to execute a well-written manipulator. Because unfortunately, most of the manipulators known in fiction are typically very corny if you actually take any of their actions seriously. Like, characters like Cersei Lannister, for example, simply wouldn't work in the real world, because most of her manipulative power depends on everyone else being emotionally impulsive or stupid. In real-life politics, her short-term scheming simply wouldn't work. Or Light Yagami, for example, whose plan constantly relied on plot basically just going in the direction he wants. But the reason those two characters are actually work in their story, while you're engaged in their interesting schemes, you don't notice the flaws because you're charmed by the magic of filmmaking. Or anime making, in case of Light. This is an essential part in the writing of a manipulator. You have to convince the audience, put them in the charm to believe that all of his stupid actions actually would have worked in the scenarios where they happen. And in my opinion, author of Chainsawman actually managed to do that. And I can say that confidently because viewers pretty much confirmed that. And I think that is it for today. Tell me in the comments if you want to see more videos like that. If you like this video, subscribe, and see ya!